the last fortress of humanity, the gloomy city. This place turned into chaos and destruction. Everything around was littered with the remains of buildings and the bodies of dragons that died every minute and descended from the sky to the ground, closing their eyes. The sky looked terrifying. Having been clear and bright in the morning, now it was painted in a depressing scarlet color, which was discharges of magic and smoke and charged the air around with electricity, making it heavy. The timekeeper of the auto did not give up trying to negotiate with the sacred elder and explained that it was no longer possible to save the world. The city and its inhabitants were doomed to a painful death amid devastation, grief and anger. However, despite all that the guardian of the time of the auto said, the holy elder was unshakable by anyone and nothing in his determination to believe in, if not the best outcome, then a worthy continuation. The holy elder would not give up the fight for his world and people. Besides, his faith reached such heights that the holy elder did not hesitate to sacrifice his own body and soul, and with the help of the powerful dragon of time, to open a hard-to-reach path to their past for the survivors who still wanted to live and rush to life. The holy elder tried his best and was very persistent in his preaching of the rejection of the loss of hopes, the transfer to the new generation of the right to their lives, which will be even better than their ancestors could be. The timekeeper of the auto was sure that only with the amazing knowledge and indisputable wisdom of the holy elder, this humanity has at least some chance to change the terrible future and create a beautiful and happy history for everyone. The holy elder was none other than one of the few people who possessed the greatest secrets of time and the world, which are no longer available to anyone. The holy elder himself personally witnessed everything that was happening. He and all his people were inextricably linked with this once most beautiful place in the world. None of them could and did not want to leave this world forever. But life and the evil, being guilty of everything that happened to this world of theirs, did not ask them, did not take into account their opinions, and did what they thought was right. No one cared what would happen to the inhabitants, and if these bodies fell into one pile with the dead magical creatures, then no one would blink an eye. Everything around was saturated with despair and expectation of the end. The clothes of the holy elder began to flicker in the twilight scarlet, and this light gradually became more and more bright, capturing more and more fabric on the elder's body. Dust rose around him and swirled in the image of small tornadoes. Swirls of air buzzed and whistled around the holy elder, and his clothes shone with a golden light, shone and seemed something strange in the atmosphere of the death of the city. Waving his hands according to a certain principle and concentrating on his spell more and more, the holy elder ended up stretching his hands forward, showing an old book. The book looked like an old encyclopedia or just an old reference book. On its dark crust there was a title page with a drawing of a powerful dragon. The holy elder waved his hand once more and the book turned over as if flaunting its cover and spine. The elder decided that even if not their generation, but another, there should be a chance to correct the situation. Only those who have absolutely nothing to do with this time will be able to rewrite the fate of this humanity thoroughly and save it, calling for a better life without blood and death at the threshold. The elder's hands were walking through the air again, when the glow became so bright that it began to blind his eyes. The holy elder pronounced a new spell, and built configurations with his hands to build a path. At first, one golden seal appeared in the sky. It was small and hung not high from the ground, but its light made its way through the smoke and fog. It became a larger round seal with a more detailed pattern inside. So 3 seals appeared in the sky. They were intended for the holy elder to form a passage into the portal for people to find their salvation, and the book was delivered to the right place where it would be most useful. The seals were connected, drawing an unimaginably complex and beautiful pattern on the sky, but they could not reach a sufficient height to become a full-fledged means of transfer and complete the portal. Terrifying by its very appearance and presence, a dark entity, which was also called the Forbidden God, hovered in the sky right at the portal. The essence of the Forbidden God was as black as night. It absorbed all the light it could, absorbing the seals that the holy elder was building with such trepidation and restoration. The Forbidden God said everything opposite to the words of the sage. He claimed that everything these people do is more like a useless pastime, not a fight. The struggle with which they are going to oppose the war with the essence of the Forbidden God does nothing but add weakness and infirmity to these human warriors. The hopes that the holy elder asks not to betray are essentially scanty, completely non-existent, and if you stick to them further, then an even more deplorable end awaits everyone. Hopes for salvation become naked despair, and stupid humanity, which has spent entire centuries just resolving its world with the same sad hope, will now rot in dust and dust thanks to the essence of the Forbidden God. The holy elder listened to the words of the essence of the Forbidden God with all care, but at the same time he was not going to listen to them, take them as someone's opinion that deserves attention, and he was not going to be silent. Even more so, he answered him in the same way, but inspired him as before and did not try to destroy everything. He absolutely does not care that they will all perish and disintegrate into pitiful dust, fly around the world to no one knows where and disappear as if they never existed in this world and they were not part of it. But they will die as heroes and will remain them further after their death. Finally, before they leave, the essence of the forbidden god will see their rage in all its glory, and will also remember them. The holy elder was no longer distracted by anything around him, and the essence of the forbidden god only hovered in the sky looking at what was happening, not interfering with it and not opposing it. The sage began the sacrifice at this moment. He absolutely decided that the time dragon is the one who will help them save their souls, and therefore he begins the ritual in order to give the way to the best for others in the future. Devoted residents of the city, military soldiers and ordinary citizens raised their heads to the sky all as one. But now they were not afraid of the scarlet light like blood. They trusted their holy sage, mentor and giver of life all as one. Then they knew that their time was coming to an end and very soon they would all fall dead forever disappearing. But they were practically not afraid to leave this beloved world. The greatest military soldiers, civil wars, without much thought and analysis will follow their leader and no matter where. The holy elder and his assistant are close. The timekeeper of the auto will definitely take them to a better place, which will be death. But they will all die without regrets. These people who lived in ancient and dangerous times will then give the future humanity a gift that will sweep across the Milky Way before getting a new owner and send him into the past to sow the seeds of hope for a better and peaceful future, which is so necessary for everyone. In a world where monsters and beasts are rampant, this generation was born and grew up. They are in an ancient wasteland, where dangerous and bloodthirsty monsters are waiting outside their shelters, ready to take their lives in an instant. However, these brave young people are responsible for the prosperity and survival of their community. The military base, known as Blacklight, has been standing on dangerous wastelands for hundreds of years and carries great power and benefits. Its current owner is a very respected master who has developed his own training methods and special camps for new animal tamers so that future master tamers have somewhere to teach the whole craft. It is thanks to this person that the base survives and plays an important protective role for its inhabitants. One night a young man came to the courtyard of the castle to look around and his gaze fell on the bulletin board. There was a sticker on the wooden wall in front of him forbidding anyone from being in Blacklight Fortress if that person was going to be a loafer and wander around the training camp. Anyone who could not train the beast for 3 years was immediately sent to the recovery group. Su Heng began to ponder why it was so unfair. He had a big blue egg in his hand that hadn't hatched yet, and there was only 1 day left before the deadline. Suddenly, he saw a golden seal sparkling in the night sky. The golden seal flickered and suddenly penetrated his brain, triggering a series of strange memories. Su Heng lost consciousness and was woken up by someone shoving him in the shoulder. It was already getting light outside, and a crowd of other inhabitants of the Blacklight Fortress had gathered around him. Everyone knew that young apprentices were not allowed to spend the night in the castle. Su Heng was stunned and didn't understand what had happened and how he ended up there. The senior disciple, wielding a whip, decisively ordered him to join the search party and go to the wasteland in search of food just to mock him. Everyone doubted that a weakling like him would be able to survive outside the base. But no sooner had he been sent to the wastelands than the egg finally broke, and it was amazing because it hadn't hatched for 3 years. One of those who were standing around Su Heng pointed his finger at the cracked egg and now everyone paid attention to it. Everyone was amazed that this renegade had achieved something. The previously harsh and ruthless inhabitant soon changed his attitude and congratulated the young man on a successful internship. Su Heng, as he was called, was amazed at his success. He realized that 3 years of training had not been in vain and a new path opened up before him. Lu Yu, the chief instructor of Blacklight Base, was the only witness who took the time to appear before the young man. She briefly but clearly told him that he could now interact with the egg in any way, and develop his potential as well as his skills. Su Heng was greatly shocked and enthusiastically welcomed his new pet. When Lu Yu gently put her hand on his shoulder as a sign of support, she noticed a recent, still bright and clearly visible scratch on his cheek. Then the owner coldly and without emotion punished him and ordered him to be sent to the wasteland. After that, she immediately took Su Heng away. When they returned to the castle, the first thing Heng did was take him to Zhu Gu, the base commander, to inform him of new developments. Lu told Gu that the boy intended to join the search party, but at the last moment hatched out of the egg. The head of the base decided that the boy's patience deserved a reasonable reward, and immediately offered him a choice: an egg from fresh dragon eggs, which would hatch faster and be much stronger than the others, or an egg from his personal collection to bring out a second pet in the future. Su-fan chose the first option and received Gu's blessing as a gift. In addition to the castle, Blacklight was divided into two zones, internal and external. The inner zone was inhabited by rich and noble people, and the outer zone was considered dirty, unpleasant, and uninhabitable, and people of the lowest class lived in it. Su-heng lived in the outer zone, where his already dissatisfied, even sad sister was waiting for him, upset by his long night absence. The story of Su-heng and the hatched egg vividly reflected the struggle and formation of a young hunter in the dangerous world of the wastelands. His successes have already begun to inspire other new and young students, and the community hoped that he would benefit and make a personal but significant contribution to the development of Blacklight. One morning, Su-heng's sister, Su-king, went deep into the base. She was looking for her brother Han, but the entrance was closed, so she had to wait at the gate. He tried to calm her down, but their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door, and a servant appeared in front of him. The servant brought the things that Hwan had asked the owner of the base. He asked Hyan to take care of them and wished her success in martial arts and in raising the beast. The mention of raising the beast caused King to have a joyful feeling, and he soon forgot about his anger. He joyfully approached his brother, congratulated him, and hugged him. His parents must have been very happy to know that Hwan had succeeded. They sold their house for the sake of Hwan's future, but he said he would stay outside anyway to calm his sister down. After thinking over her plans, she remembered that she had to go to work, shouted to her brother to behave himself, and left. After returning home, Su-heng sat down on the floor and carefully examined the gifts promised by the mayor, which the servant brought. When he picked up the dragon scales, something strange happened to him again. The golden color of the scales began to glow brighter, and sparks played on his forehead and in his eyes. A foreign book opened in front of him, which described the process in which a lizard with scales hatches from an egg into a dragon, and also told how dragon scales are used in this process. Dragon scales turned ordinary scaled lizards into mighty dragons. Su-heng realized that his pet was an intermediate species, a scaly lizard, and the dragon lizard was an advanced species capable of destroying even small cities. They were two different kinds of creatures. He wondered what effect the dragon root, which he also now had, could have. He remembered a girl who showed enough potential to surprise the owner of the castle and become his disciple one day. From the very beginning, she created the most dangerous species. If Su-heng manages to raise a lizard dragon, perhaps with this dragon, he can become the new disciple of the master of the castle. Inspired by this thought, Su-heng went to the medical supplies store and bought everything necessary for the ritual that was described in that strange book. Then he carefully drew a mark on the floor and put an egg in it. The egg broke, but it remained unknown whether it was a scaly lizard or a dragon lizard. That day, Mentor Lu was in charge of the training ground. Most of the players did not train, but discussed the situation with Su-heng's egg. He hasn't hatched it yet, but Su-heng had the audacity not to train for several days, and some even thought that he had died altogether. However, they decided to wait for Headmaster Mentor Lu to sort it out. Despite his absence, Su-heng confidently went to training. There was a good reason for his absence, and he hoped that Mentor Lu would understand it. When Lu told Su-heng to approach her at the training ground, a small dragon-like creature crawled out of Su's backpack. Everyone on the site froze in fear, and the master immediately took Su to the owner of the base. The animal turned out to be a particularly dangerous type of dragon lizard. It was strange that this particular kind of hatched from such a weak master as Su-heng. It was necessary to find out who gave him this egg. The owner of the base asked to immediately inform the special bureau that deals with such issues in order to find the person who gave Su-heng such a dangerous egg and punish him. No one has the right to breed and cross scaly lizards with dragon lizards. Thanks to his perseverance and hard work, Su-heng has already achieved a lot and gained a lot of experience. At first, he had an ordinary scaly lizard, but now he has a dangerous appearance, a higher dragon lizard. It was a great achievement. The mayor of the base was confident that Su-heng would go even further and meet their expectations. He was proud that such a talented and determined young man served in their castle. At nightfall, the owner of the Blacklight base invited Su to a banquet. All the tamers and their mentors gathered there to celebrate the arrival of the new student and the mayor of the city. The feast lasted until nightfall. When Su and his sister were returning home in a carriage with an escort, Su found out that he could now receive 100 gold coins monthly for the maintenance of his new pet. The sister said they could save up some of that money to buy back their old house and pay for her education. Soo-heng himself didn't mind, but he would have had to save for at least a year. Soo still had to take on something serious and work. In a world where creatures are divided into normal and dangerous, the most striking difference is their innate ability to use magic. Such abilities, called magical talents, play an important role in determining a creature's strength. Among the dangerous types of animals, such a serpentine dragon as Soo stands out, which is believed to have a special predisposition to magic. In addition to the general skill evil attack, the serpentine dragon has 6 more skills: Dragon's Dream, which allows him to quickly recover from wounds received in battle and regain strength; Lower Dragon Power, characteristic of most lower dragon species; and Dragon Power. They also use the power of the earth, a destructive technique, and the power of nature, which allows them to use the energy of nature for magic. The combination of force of nature and dragon sleep makes the serpentine dragon extremely tenacious and almost invulnerable. Finally, there is the most powerful skill, Evil Energy. The evil energy is destructive and is close to the dragon's breath and strength. Soo-heng, the protagonist of this story, is not a professional in taming and training animals, but he can handle them well enough. He controls a beast, a dragon, which turns out to be his loyal and strong self. The little dragon was growing and developing rapidly, but Soo didn't expect it to grow so fast. The next day, Soo-heng met with his teacher in the training hall. The teacher advised Soo to test his strength with 3 magic elements and choose the one he could focus on first. The mayor of the base pointed to his ring with a red stone and said that his animal creature is evil. There is an animal amulet that can lock a huge beast inside itself, where it can rest and recover. Tamers often use various ornaments in the form of amulets to control and tame the beast. As a result of the teacher's order, the evil elemental Scarlet Wolf, representing the 2nd rank of elemental beings, came out of the ring. For a while, he was the master's main beast and was perfect for Soo-heng's snake dragon in battle. The teacher asked the wolf to use the evil breath and show the kid how to perform this action correctly. However, I noticed that the little dragon Soo also showed magical power, surrounding himself with purple smoke. This smoke turned out to be the breath of evil thought, the initial form of the dragon's ability to use the elements. It became clear to the teacher that Dragon Soo has great potential and talent, and great achievements await him. Impressed by the kid, the teacher decided to suspend further training of the Scarlet Wolf and sent him to the ring, and a huge platypus of the earth element appeared in his place. The earth platypus is a combination of earth magic, animal essence, and intimidation. Faced with this new opponent, Dragon Soo felt fear, and Soo began to doubt the correctness of the teacher's choice. However, he did not make a decision so that the teacher would not be offended. The teacher decided to fight the Dragon Soo using his strongest ally, the Lava Dragon, combining the power of fire, stone, and evil. Lava dragons are rare, and Soo was lucky that his first beast turned out to be a dragon. It was incredible luck. Such a dragon gives a lot of advantages and opportunities, and, of course, the tamer Soo would not get a second egg without it. He thought of the grimoire with the rituals of the ancient clans and realized the importance of this powerful thing. As the lava dragon approached, Soo felt an enormous pressure, feeling like a small boat ready to sink under the blow of a huge dragon. He was taken aside by the teacher so as not to get hurt. He watched the battle with awe. Placing his pet in the ring, the teacher ordered the lava dragon to strengthen the attack and attack. The little dragon Soo was weak and small, but still tried to use the lower dragon power against the huge Tyrannosaurus. However, it remains unknown whether he will be able to break through the terrifying terror of the dragon, the teacher's ally. The little dragon has discovered a magical breath that he has learned from the scales, and it is supposed to be used in his future training. Soo-heng, who has a lot of experience, was able to double his talent thanks to dragon blood. His teacher gave him a book that contained many methods and techniques for the development of his beast and the development of mind power. He also understood the importance of spiritual training during his dragon's training. After thanking the teacher for such a valuable gift, Soo-heng finally bought his family's mansion. People now treated him with respect, knowing that he had become a master tamer. In his spare time, Soo-heng started cleaning the mansion. Although he could not restore the house to its former splendor, it was a relief to him that he owned his own house. Before telling the good news to his sister, Soo-heng decided to surprise her and went to her work himself. On the way, he heard a familiar voice from the courtyard and immediately rushed in that direction. On the spot, he found his sister, Su King, surrounded by 3 guys and their aggressive dogs. One of the guys mockingly told her that he wanted to introduce her to his dogs. King waved her hands trying to scare away the dogs, but they definitely obeyed their master and were not going anywhere. 3 guys were standing opposite, savoring obviously terrible thoughts about the situation, and the one who was standing in the middle smiled nastily. According to this scoundrel, if the girl has fun with him this evening, then his dogs will not play. Han appeared from around the corner unexpectedly and therefore scared everyone. But when he offered to play with a brick with a cold voice, which he picked up, everyone was even more scared. He hit the dog with a run, which was standing closer to the Morse, instantly killing it. Now no one has enough brains to bother his sister. He stood up for her and will stand up to the last. These street rats should stay as far away from his sister as possible, that's a fact. If the father of one of these freaks is the owner of the plantation, then this does not give the right to everything. Blondie was visibly shocked by the dog's death and even started shouting that Jack would cut his throat. The second dog immediately growled, rushing forward, and no one could intercept him now. The sister quietly asked her brother and the baby to run away from here as soon as possible, but no one moved from their place. When the dog jumped to grab Han, someone jumped to meet her, too. The snake dragon is very small, but not powerless from this, jumped on the dog, knocking her off the path, gnawed her throat, immediately killing her. Now the guy was saddened by the death of 2 dogs at once. He and his friends picked up knives intending to take revenge, but quickly changed their minds. Dragon power quickly seemed to them not safe. One turned out to be more savvy and warned his boss that it was a dragon with an evil element, and they had better get out right now. From the other side of the gateway, several guards came out to them. One of the bad guys offered to just blame everything that happened on this company, and then ask them to put handcuffs on them and buy themselves enough time to leave. The boss actually had some connections with the local police, and he actually liked this idea very much. They'll just ask to arrest these bastards and be done with it. I wanted to laugh because I realized how he would make Sue look like an idiot when he was in a prison cell. And when this dude is crippled, he will meet his sister Su King right in front of his nose. His dogs couldn't have died in vain. The captain came closer, not very interested in the situation. They were obviously familiar with this coup and communicated the same way. The blonde, wasting no time, began to complain that that ugly bastard with special cruelty had slaughtered his beloved dogs for no reason at all. Now he must be arrested and immediately put in a cell. Just without interest. After listening to the rest, the captain ordered 2 specialists behind him to put handcuffs on the specified person. The 2 came closer, discussing how anyone could and dared to touch Mr. Ku's dogs at all. And now he will be a good boy, and in handcuffs. Sue stood between his sister and the trio, protecting her, and she, frightened, snuggled closer to him. A cracked brick lay at their feet, and 2 policemen were standing opposite. Han pointed to the brick and confessed that he had killed 2 dogs with it, and that the police could ask him questions if they had nothing else to do. It was an offense, but still a crime. The police were shocked by his indifference and cruelty. They just now noticed the blue animal on the guy's shoulder and found out that he was a tamer. Sue took out a tamer card from his pocket and showed it to the police. They were amazed by this unexpected information. At this time, their captain heard the confusion of his subordinates and approached them. He already knew about the second student of the mayor. This changed the situation. The captain made a decisive move, pulled out a pistol and fired into the air, threatening the guys that they would be arrested for killing their dogs. They continued to justify themselves, saying that they were the victim and not the culprit, and that a mistake had occurred for which they were trying to put them away. The leader told that his father is the owner of the plantation at number 5, and that the captain is obliged to do him a favor. Then he was knocked out so that he spoke less. The captain approached Sue with a smile on his face and expressed his agreement with his actions. He was glad that Sue intervened in time, and promised to punish the guys. Then the captain and his subordinate stuffed them into a cell and took them away. Sue and his sister decided to return to their parents' house. They were glad to be here again. When they arrived at the house, someone knocked on the door. Sue opened and saw a man who turned out to be the deputy director of the plantations. He explained that he had received information from the police about the conflict between Ku Dinquan and Sue, and that Ku would now be transferred to another plantation. Although wild animals are rampant there and trouble happens from time to time, the deputy thinks that Ku Dinquan, who at least was the leader, will be able to adapt to this. Han was glad that the director paid attention to this. The deputy kept talking. He heard that Sister Sue seems to be the senior agronomist in their plantation system. Therefore, she can be promoted to the position of deputy director in the department of agronomy of their management. Even if the sister herself did not think that it suited her, the deputy tried to convince her. Since she's Mr. Su's sister, of course she suits them. And besides, if she needs something, she can always find a substitute and ask for a favor. Everything was decided. The sister agreed to a promotion. It seems that when someone becomes stronger, he gets more and more privileges. The dragon on Su's shoulder purred, and he decided it was time to feed him. After pouring his pet a whole bowl of food, which looked like petals with a green glow, he put it in front of the dragon. He looked at the pile of food and didn't look hungry. He needs to eat some more. It was in the mentor's recipe. In addition, it is very useful for the dragon. If he eats well, he will grow quickly and become stronger. Feed formulas for tamed animals are divided into poor quality, average, good, very good, excellent, wonderful, perfect, and perfect. There are 8 of them in total. The food that the teacher gave them was of very good quality, just for a young animal. In addition, this recipe is really very important to him as a student, but that's why he disliked the baby right after he tried it. Perhaps it was the ingredients, but as it was said in the rituals of ancient dragons, as soon as lizard dragons hatch, they immediately eat their own shells, and then they may not eat at all for a long time. As a hybrid of 3 species, amphibians, dragons, and evil creatures. The courtship of dragons, beasts, and lizards cannot be uniform. It must be focused on certain aspects. At the same time, dragons, snakes, and lizards are quite fastidious in food. They revere food in the form of living beings. Now, it seems, it was clear why the dragon did not like the food so much, and it would be necessary to go look for a new recipe for him. Su stroked the pet's head while smiling. The teacher gives him a lot of money, and therefore he does not need to limit the pet in food, so the dragon should eat more and grow faster. During the next few long and tedious days, which dragged on too much, Su Heng fed his snake dragon lizard according to the recipe from the book Rituals of Ancient Dragons. The kid really liked the new recipe, but it also led to a big problem. It's only been 5 days, and there's no money left at all. An unpleasant anxiety was felt, although there was absolutely no money left. But now the dragon has overcome the childhood stage and entered adulthood. If they encounter the dogs again, a difficult battle with which then took a lot of strength and energy. Right now, it won't be difficult for his dragon at all. It will even be too easy. He will be able to finish off such a person in a couple of seconds, in one breath and without straining. With such strong scales, an ordinary person without a good firearm poses absolutely no threat. Even if 3 or 5 adult strong men, armed, faced a snake dragon, they would be killed in a matter of seconds and would not have time to understand anything. The teacher asked me to find him when the dragon Su enters the adult stage, but that's the problem. It's amazing that it's only been 5 days since he stopped being a little cub and became much stronger. Perhaps the recipe from that old, battered book really refers to the level of perfect or perfect. Since this is the case, it is very important to be more careful and long-term, keeping it a secret. Soon, Dragon Su will have to learn how to use his new skills and become even stronger. It would be good to stop frequent feeding with milk mixtures, at least for 10 days, and if possible, then for a longer period. 10 days later, Su and his dragon lizard came to the castle to see the teacher. The man had not seen him for a long time and even began to think that he was idling. Su quickly apologized for the omissions, but explained that he had worked hard and efficiently on the development of his dragon, and therefore it was not in his power to attend training, and thanks to the teacher's recipe, the dragon successfully reached its new, adult stage. Now he was almost as tall as Su himself, and the teacher was very impressed by this. 10 days may not be so fast and soon, but it took the 8th disciple by Su a month just for her beast to advance from the child stage to the adult stage. And her ice lotus is 2 levels lower than the snake dragon Su. The guy has even thought that it would be better to do without such a wild pace of growth and development. Apparently, the dragon not only has outstanding fighting abilities and strength, but also has a unique potential for growth. At the same time, he not only has outstanding fighting abilities, but also has a unique potential for growth, which grows very quickly. If he is already an adult dragon, then he is probably already familiar with his new abilities. But now he also has dragon power of the 1st and 2nd degree. But these are 2 types of skills: dragon power intimidation, dragon power shock and awe. And the breath of evil thought also rose to a higher level and formed into a stream of evil thought. He achieved all this in just 10 days, and about such abilities as dragon's dream, force of nature, and evil attack he decided not to even mention, let alone say. The teacher never doubted his student and was always confident in him. But now it was necessary to check what this dragon was capable of in the training hall. They came to the mayor's private training ground. The snake dragon lizard must prove himself in the best possible way. If this is true, then Su will receive a personal talisman of the master as a gift. In the end, he tried hard and went through a lot of obstacles, and being a master without his personal talisman is absolutely not convenient. Su, of course, was very inspired by the prize, and now it depended on his pet whether he would get a talisman or not. The giant stone armadillo bear was the opponent of the dragon Su this time. Every time the teacher trains Su, he shows him more and more new animals with the element of evil, never repeating, and it is so amazing. To put it bluntly, his teacher is still weak and has tamed only 10 or 20 high-class danger beasts, and only half of them are of the same level as a bear or a lava tyrannosaurus. However, the guy still needs to show what his strong pet is capable of, defend his desire for a mascot, and recoup the time spent on such labors. The bear growls loudly, and the sound wave almost knocks the guys off their feet, but they hold on, mainly thanks to the dragon, who uses the dragon power, the holding barrier. The teacher is absolutely delighted that the dragon Su at the growth stage can withstand a full-fledged individual. He stops the bear, who did nothing else but his roar. He asked to show the attack with the help of evil breath. The guy had no doubt that his dragon was capable of this. They are quite capable of showing them how the snake dragon uses the flow of evil thoughts. The dragon tensed, releasing a small purple disc at the bear, but it only slightly hit him on the head. He apparently ate little porridge. This small ball is no more than a tickle for this beast, but Su was not going to back down. The serpent dragon simply did not use the stream of evil thoughts, the pearl of evil. The dragon tensed up again and now launched 3 spheres at the bear at once, which all crashed exactly into the stone forehead, crushing it into crumbs. Actually, Su is well done. Neither the teacher nor anyone else could have thought that the guy had studied the evil breath technique so well, and would use it in attack. He used the accumulation of dark energy and was able to create a real series of shots, as if with bullets, having also built a series of very accurate attacks, and this is all not bad. In fact, there was another technique of the Pearl of Evil, which attacks so accurately that the enemy cannot dodge. But only attacks of this level would not be able to penetrate the armor of the stone bear. The teacher was quite pleased with the success of his students and handed Su the talisman ring, which was now Su's property. Although it can't hold as many animals as the teacher's ring, it can still hold 5. There is enough space to accommodate 5 animals, and if his tamed animals make room a little, then you can even accommodate 10. The guy was very happy with such a gift and tirelessly thanked the teacher. However, it was too early to rejoice yet. Even though he has developed the technique and control of dragon magic quite well, his combat experience is 0. Real fights are the best way to increase it. The teacher decided to send Su and his dragon to the northern section of their defense, where there will be a great opportunity to fight with dangerous types of animals. In 3 days, Su should report to the military headquarters and inform, and then someone will give him an appointment. Behind the high walls of blacklight there are 4 defensive lines that guard the entire base. Each section of the defensive lines consists of military camps and many animal tamers along with specially trained military with firearms. The southern and northern borders are the most dangerous. There are battles with dangerous types of animals almost every day. Most of the materials in the city related to dangerous types of beasts were also the results of the hunting of the 4 main frontiers. Within 3 days, Su Heng collected his advance for the next month of benefits for tamers in the amount of as much as 250 yuan. He spent most of this amount buying ingredients for his dragon's food, as well as 3 whole days preparing these ingredients into formulas in order to preserve the food for as long as possible. By agreement with the military headquarters of the outer fortress, Su Heng went to the northern frontier, Post 7, as a member of the team. 4 full-fledged defensive lines were designed and built on the territory of this military base. To a very large extent, they were built for plantations that are located in the wild places nearby. If you look at the situation deeper and more seriously, it becomes clear that in the end the area of land from which it is possible to harvest a good harvest is limited. So the total amount of harvest collected from all 7 plantations, albeit large, but inside the gathering does not have the ability to meet the needs of 50 or 60 people who live in the city, though at least half. A person starting to work on plantations in the countryside is exposed to the same degree of danger as a person joining search teams. Let the work on such plantations be inferior to the work in the search party, but still both of these industries are among the most dangerous that the residents of the base actually try to avoid. Provided that Su Heng does not change his memory, which he personally does not doubt, then the same Ku Dingquan is the head of the plantation floor number 5, and recently was also appointed to the plantation number 13. everything would be fine. But, oddly enough, the plantation number 13 was in the security zone of the northern line of defense, in the safest place. The military vehicle on which Su Heng was taken to the location of the northern frontier fortress stopped at the long porch. Su Heng jumped to the ground looking around. The driver, who was quite chatty, told him that he was now at the 7th observation point and would be there for a long time. Finally, the driver waved his hand and wished him good luck, and he was about to leave. In addition to transporting the master tamer, his duties also included reports on the complete correctness and safety of the trip. The soldier did not want to detain him, and Su Heng himself did not have much time for inspections. The soldiers who were sitting on the upper tower of the observation post looked at the newly arrived guy with interest. The fact that he was brought by none other than the chief of staff himself prompted the men to certain thoughts. In addition, if you judge the trunk with a whole mountain of dry rations for simplified animals, and not for people, it became clear that this newly arrived guy was definitely a master tamer, who was sent to him once again. Two of them, who were staring at the picture that unfolded below more than the others, looked at each other busily and immediately rushed down to offer their help in dragging things. Huang, but Heng can just call him Xiao Huang. From now on, the safety of the 7th point depends only on Su Heng. Han didn't quite understand why there was such politeness. This soldier was older than him, so he would call him Huang Ji. Perhaps this is the first time Ji meets a non-pompous master tamer, which he is glad of. Everyone helped Han put things in their places, bring them to the right place, and then they were going to give the new guy a feast. There are only 29 guard posts on the northern border, and Su Heng must report on the situation at the 7th guard post. More than 10 years ago, he was blown to pieces by a flying dangerous species that did not leave a single survivor at the guard post. Since then, the entire modern guard post number 7 has been rebuilt on the ruins. This will be the place where Su Heng will break into his first real fight. Everyone gathered for dinner, although they did not have special conditions for cooking delicious food. But Awan's cooking is simply excellent in any case, and Mr. Su should feast on it. Huang continued to address Su with the prefix Mr., which he didn't particularly like. He asked me to call him by his first name. After all, they are comrades in arms, and it will be too strange if his colleagues address him as Mr. Su. The master tamer is a very important person, so Huang decided to call him Su Ji too. There were 4 of Han's friends sitting at the table, and he decided to ask about the dangerous animals that are here. In this place, they are still located somewhere on the middle line, so the pressure on the defense is certainly less than in more distant bands. Another soldier waved his hand in the direction of the boxes. There were a bunch of dangerous beasts that they had caught over the past few days. In the middle and at the end of each month, a military officer arrives there with a team from the city, which is responsible for transporting rare resources and counting rewards. All these things are really very difficult without a tamed beast. Huang smiled, glancing at Han, and asked him to show what his beast could do. The others didn't have time to say that it was forbidden by the rules, but Han had already ordered his pet to appear, and now a blue snake dragon stood in front of them. The fact that Su Ji has the first tamed beast of the most dangerous kind was a delight for everyone. Apparently, the delight was too obvious, and the dragon growled at one of the guys with the help of dragon power shock and awe. But Han quickly stroked him behind the ear, warning him not to attack his own. Xiao was fine and continued to admire the strong beast and the magnificent master. The guys laughed, remembering Xiao that he almost peed his pants out of fear. After the meal, Su Heng met all his 5 brothers at the post. After a short recovery, Su Heng, on the advice of his mentor, began to train the power of the mind, using the spiritual hammer. The method that his mentor advised him is called Crystal Mind and consists of only 3 stages. The first stage is to remove all distractions and create a crystal environment for meditation around yourself, meditating as if on a giant crystal. The second stage is working with a specific breathing rhythm, when the mind gradually becomes one with the meditative environment. And finally, the third stage with the underlying method of spiritual hammer. With Han's current progress, it would only take him half a year to reach a crystal clear mind, just as the teacher had said. A monster like Sister Bai Su, who has refined her mind to crystal clarity in just a month or so, she must be really bright, like that moon hanging over Han's head. His thoughts in the silence of the night were broken by the cry of a siren, and Xiao ran out to him, urging him to go with him as soon as possible. The observation post was attacked by insect-like monsters, of which there were so many that all the military on duty were called to defend the territory. Su Heng stood next to Huang on the observation tower and watched the monsters through binoculars. It seemed to him that this is a dangerous species of the 2nd rank, a club-footed beetle, which has armored claws instead of paws, sickles with which this individual of the monster can easily split a huge boulder, for example. Such monsters as these at the observation post were all called the scythe beetle for convenience, and these were the most common types of animals in that sector. They had to be fought most often. They were well studied by everyone and difficulties usually did not arise. These insect monsters multiply very quickly, but actually killing 4 at once is not such a problem. All the members of the military team, joined by Su Heng himself, were intensely preparing for a fight with monster bugs. Even if they had to hurry without a plan to go out to eat the fight, it would be a huge stupidity. Huan, according to custom, took over the development of the plan and when everyone was gathered, stopped next to them to distribute duties for the upcoming fight. Huang, along with Lao Yu, will have to stay at the machine gun position of the watchtower to be a cover and kill the main number of insect monsters in packs of 4 or 5. So they can cope much faster. At this time, Avon will have to occupy an advanced sniper position on the northwest side of the base to cover the others and kill especially strong insects. Both Xiao Lu and Hu will remain at the base to guard the 5th plantation on the perimeter, and the 6th plantation from firing on the 1st level. When all the duties and positions were distributed, and the knowledge of who and what would do appeared, Huang stopped everyone once again, and with a serious expression on his face, encouraged the fighters to help their brother Su Hengji to finish off these creeping creatures as best as possible. Everyone agreed with this, as well as with the plan. Such a dangerous species had an ability called perception, and it meant exactly the imposition of high-strength armor on the body. This created little difficulties in fighting the individual, but it was not a terrible thing. When the machine gunners opened fire on the crowd of monsters, they seemed to have killed 100 at once with the first shot. Actually, there was one difficulty in this, which hindered many, but many others did not even think about it. In order for the war to be given some kind of reward for killing and neutralizing dangerous monsters, it is necessary that the head of this monster remains with him, and not separately. The scythe beetle has the best skill, of course, armor overlay, which helps them a lot in survival. But in fact this skill is not particularly effective, although it significantly weakens, removes the effect of injuries from ordinary bullets. When the fighters almost continuously shot at crowds of scythe beetles and cleared more and more territory, they created an almost ideal environment, an opportunity for the sniper to attack, to inflict more control blows that would neutralize the monster immediately, and forever. This was quite enough. These guys are not master tamers, but their understanding of the situation and skill, honed in repeated battles, is enough to provide all the necessary combat power. One of the monsters, mixing with the pile of already dead ones, was about to run away. Xiao Hu, along with Su Ji and Huang, were going to finish him off together. 2 were sitting in the cockpit, and Xiao was operating a machine gun on the roof. It was necessary to keep an eye on the internal border, so everything is gilded, so being on the alert is the main thing. To begin with, it would be worth looking at what will happen to this insect after the evil attack. Han stretched out his hand with a grin, releasing his dragon from the ring. It seems that this armor, which protects the insect monster, really works so well that it repelled the first evil attack and received almost no damage. Han told his snake dragon to use the stream of evil thoughts, the pearl of evil. The magic discs flew right at the target, pierced the armor by millimeters, and had no effect anymore. But the beetle continued to advance. Shock and awe didn't make the situation much better, but thanks to the dragon power, half of the monster's head was blown off, and he hobbled back realizing that he was badly injured. Running away was a stupid idea. Thanks to the power of the earth, the monster's life had already been cut short. The beetle was pierced by a stone block growing out of the ground in several places, and he immediately died. When everyone returned to the fortress and sat down together, the discussions were reduced only to the battle of the snake dragon Su with that monster beetle. Xiao was the loudest, talking about how Su Ji shouted the power of the earth, and then right out of the ground, these spears pierced this beetle like an ordinary pumpkin. Some thought that Su Ji, like all sweaty beginners, just decided to get rich, and now everyone understood Su Ji is a real nugget. Everyone was very impressed and thought he was very cool. They were distracted by the noise, and they went to the fence to look. It was a command convoy. Actually, their appearance was strange. Usually, when recalculating military supplies, the command arrives there only by noon, after visiting each watchtower and post. No one knew why they had come. Han wondered what the unexpected visit might be related to. Cars drove through the gate in an even formation, and then parked at the entrance. The commander-in-chief of the Northern Defensive Line, Lu Ling, got out of the car with a cigarette in his mouth and looked very free. Hugo and that sniper greeted the man. Xiao held the car door. He hasn't seen them for so many years, and they're still the same as before. Both guys were touched that the commander-in-chief had come such a hard way on purpose to work with them, and someone did not think that Commander-in-Chief Lu Ling would even remember the name of one of them. Ling waved his palm in their direction to urge them to shut up, but he was pleased and flattered by such attention. Actually, it's less than a 10-minute drive from the barrier to this place. He approached Han to clarify whether the guy was getting used to it, whether he felt comfortable here. Han straightened up, putting his hands to his temple with a visor, and reported that he had met all his comrades in the service, and had adapted well to the life that awaited him in that place. Ling patted Han on the head and asked him not to be so formal with him. The teacher had already told him a couple of times that he had taken a very talented new student. Lu heard the chief of staff say that Han didn't see him then, and that they just missed each other last time because Han went to exterminate those stupid bastards. But he decided to come again to see Su in person. Han wondered if the Commander-in-Chief had come to a tiny post for him. Actually, everyone thought that Su was an ordinary master, but they did not know that he was a personal disciple of the master. It was lucky that he didn't cause any trouble during this time. Now everyone had to take stock of the battles over the last half a month on the post, and it was advisable not to interfere with them with Su Heng. Lu Ling asked Su to summon his snake dragon. The mentor specifically instructed him to come and monitor the development of Su, so that everything could be reported to him later. Su thought that the mentor had forgotten about him as soon as he left the city, but it turns out that he had already sent his spy. The snake dragon flew out of the ring, landing next to its master. Lu was surprised. The dragon hatched a little less than a month ago, and has already grown so much. Su took it calmly, smiling. Yes, his dragon has grown very quickly since he learned how to use dragon magic. Dragon Lu was generally even bigger at the same age. The mentor asked Lu to find out how well he had honed his dragon's fighting skills. Lu also has his own tamed dragon, so he will let him test it in the name of the cause. A horned earth dragon strode out of Lu's ring, a dangerous species with two bloodlines, earth and dragon, with the same racial rank as the dragon snake lizard. He was personally bred by Lu to the level of a full-fledged dangerous species. Thanks to his thick skin and horns, he is able to withstand second-rank beasts at the end of his kind for a short period of time. And this is definitely one of the main advantages of a dragon. Everyone was concerned about such a huge opponent except his master, it seems. Han stroked his snake dragon and asked Lu to tell his pet to be softer, otherwise it's no wonder he'll just trample his dragon. Lu calmed him down by assuring him that everything was fine and his earth dragon knew the measure in everything, and then asked him to start with a small earthquake, and the earth cracked within a kilometer radius. Li levitated in the air next to his pet. This is the advantage of being able to control spiritual power after training mind power. But now there is no point in thinking about it at all. He tells his friend to use the evil attack and dodge the blows. The dragon nodded, and then grabbed the crying guy flying up. The snake dragon that used the Pearl of Evil against that horned dragon was now trying to leave its master unharmed. At the moment when the snake dragon used the Pearl of Evil, the opponent's strength was the same as before, without damage. Counting on Han's snake dragon to defeat the horned dragon is just a dream. Yes, even if it would be cool to lose beautifully. All that Han himself can do is to show the results of the dragon's development that he has achieved during all this time, and not to disappoint the teacher, who is so worried, being tens of kilometers away from himself. The guy encouraged his snake dragon, suggested maneuverability, movements, and commands. Now was the right time to try out the dragon powers, the dance of the earth. The snake dragon does not do a bad job, but it can't do anything about the fact that there is much more physical strength and mass in the opponent. With one of his stomps, the horned dragon fights off the snake, and the baby falls to the ground, breaking a whole rut. Lu laughs, but without malice, and mutters something about not bad tactics. His dragon is already at the 9th level, so their earth dance is nothing at all. Su had already run to his pet and was stroking him, trying to calm him down. The baby was clearly scared and upset. He wondered if Lu hadn't told him to use everything he could to not disappoint the teacher. Of course, Lu never wanted to offend him with these words. It really looks like that. But Lu just already understands what snake lizard dragons are capable of. It's not bad. The guy slaps Su on the shoulder, warning that the teacher will be pleased. This snake dragon of his is developing much faster than any Lu dragon has developed. Their teacher really took a very talented student to him. The guy had no doubt about it. Lu was taking Su aside, and at this time, amidst the devastation, the same horned dragon, who seems strong and scary, put his paw on the back of the younger dragon, encouraging. Winter came soon after the commander-in-chief's departure. It was wildly cold at the guard post. The walls are not as high and strong as on their base, able to shelter from the winter cold. The sniper went to bed, his teeth chattering, and already wrapped in a sleeping bag. He did not stop lamenting about how cold it was around. The guy lying next to me giggled. I suggest that he become a master tamer so that he has a spiritual cover and he would be warm. No one had time to fall asleep then because of the flashing red light and the new siren screeching, which spoke of the call of guard post number 3 in the northern part. Plantation number 25 was attacked by a group of dangerous species and they need to deal with it urgently. Xiao and Xiao he immediately went on call from the third post. Lao Yu and Awan then stayed to guard the house. According to Captain Li, the situation is really serious, since almost the entire 25th plantation has been completely captured. More than 20 individuals of a dangerous species entered the territory and not about 5 less dangerous ones. All the plantation workers locked themselves in the staff quarters. They have about a dozen broken guns, with which they somehow fight back. When the animals get inside, it's only a matter of time and a short time. The whole plantation is in great danger. The team was going to gather support for all the posts of patrol bases number 3 and number 2 in the northern sector, as well as the main forces that would almost completely come out to protect the plantation. The collection should be completed by 4 in the morning, since the attack will begin exactly at this time. That is, in exactly 20 minutes. Plantation number 25, post number 3, gate 6. The team is approaching the checkpoint and Huang, saluting, asks to report that Huang Chengju, Zhao Xiaohu and Su Huan from post number 7 on the northern border have arrived at the designated place. The man at the checkpoint asked to drive faster and said that he was reporting everything on the radio. When they drove further away, their radio rustled, and then a voice was heard from there. According to the information provided by the intelligence group, these monsters broke through the 6th gate on the northwest side, and now they are all in the grain area, gnawing pieces out of dead bodies. All the survivors were moved to the staff quarters and are now defending themselves, strengthening the protection. All fighting squads, all vehicles will line up in the shape of a spear. 2 armored vehicles will be used as spear tips, directly attacking and opening fire on the dormitory building on the plantation. Everyone should be extremely careful. The dangerous species that invaded this time are poisonous wolves that are resistant to attacks and can easily bite off their heads. The voice on the last wheeze shouted requests for rescue and disconnected. As it was planned in the plan, the front armored tanks fired from cannons, killing a dozen wolves at once. One individual broke out of the general pile and rushed to the rock, and then climbed to the very top and howled long. Heng, who was sitting in the back, asked Xiaohu to pull back a little. He knew that something was wrong. Huan stared at him in disbelief. Didn't they hear that howl? Han had heard from his teacher that a dangerous species like the venomous wolf could evolve into the ultimate alpha wolf form. Everything that is happening is a catch in itself. The wolf pack began to move away from the car strangely. Their leader must be directing them from the mountain. No wonder so many individuals broke through the fortifications. The movement of cars was hindered by the purple fog swirling around, and only some understood that this fog was also the work of wolves. It was a poisonous fog. Heng asks to turn on the infrared sight, be alert and not miss his teammates for anything in his life. But not everything was so simple. Xiao drove back even further. A flurry of blows fell on the car that was driving next to them. A huge wolf with one paw tore out the roof of the car along with the glass. The car rolled over on its side, and the wolves immediately rushed at it. It was a shadow wolf companion. The special ability of the leader of the poisonous wolves is a shadow double, which means there was another leader here. Now the shadow wolf was approaching their car, and even before they had time to open fire on it, the animal pushed the car with all its strength, immediately knocking out all the windows. Scraping the wheels, the car remains in place and miraculously does not turn over. Things were going absolutely badly. The armor of this wolf did not penetrate anything at all, and not at all. Shadow Wolf rolled over on his back, somersaulted backwards, jumping to the ground, and the next second jumped right on the car, breaking the whole top at once. The wolf's face flies in front of Han and freezes when he shouts and calls his snake dragon for help. The dragon appears in front of the Shadow Wolf instantly and immediately comes, causing the monster to get confused. The power of the dragon shock and awe works flawlessly, and the seed of evil thoughts that follows it, the pearl of evil, becomes decisive. The snake dragon takes off into the sky, releasing purple spheres into the wolf. They fly, just driving into the shadow fur, and eventually the shadow companion falls to the ground decapitated. Su Heng is called into the radio and asks the commander to cease fire to avoid accidental injuries. He promises to take care of the leader of the poisonous wolves. No one was surprised by such a statement at all. No wonder, because he is a student of the mayor. He is already with such strength, even though he is still at the training stage. The commander looks through binoculars, pressing a walkie-talkie to his cheek, and orders a ceasefire to support military vehicle number 10 in the northern sector. He says that the leader of the poisonous wolves is on Su now, and no one regrets it. They will take care of steel trifles so as not to interfere with the battle of Mr. Su and the leader of the attacking pack. Su goes in search of the leader not alone and finds the monster too, along with Hugo. The leader of the poisonous wolves pulls the tank with his paws, and next to him screams and asks for help from soldiers. Han doesn't even hesitate to summon a snake dragon when talking about an evil attack. The blow of magic falls directly into the neck of the animal and a few drops of blood jumps out of the mouth. But the wolf quickly gathers strength. His eyes are red and dangerous. He is ready to attack. At this time, the soldier somehow clumsily got up and began to thank Han for saving him, and he shouted at him to get out of here rather than standing like a pillar. It was too late when the wolf pierced the soldier with his tail, throwing him aside and again turned his attention to the enemies. The snake dragon performs the dance of the earth and a lot of teeth right out of the ground quickly overtake the wolf. Venomous wolves have the ability to sinister strike and the beast uses it dodging stone spears. Han yells that this is a great opportunity for shooting and no one even thinks about it, but just grabs a gun starting to shoot at the wolf. At this time, the dragon quieted down next to him, and when the wolf was disoriented by bullets and spears, he clung to his throat. Of course, Han knew that the wolf leader would try to escape, but he wouldn't have allowed it anyway. Shock and awe should be the last point in this fight. The dragon kills the leader very quickly. Although they were driving a well-worn, but still working car, they were driving back with the same company. Hugo kept trying to ask the guy about his bad mood, but he answered coldly, like everything was fine with him, he was just thinking. Previously, it was not usual to attract master tamers during invasions of this scale. But if it wasn't for Han, it's not hard to believe, there would have been at least twice as many losses. Su really saved them this time. Hugo pulled the arms of his jacket open, revealing the scar he earned when he first fought to save the plantation. That battle was much more terrifying than this one with the wolves. More than 50 people were killed and wounded in that battle. The armored car was smashed to scrap by a huge steel gorilla in mature form, which turned the entire crew into mush. In the end, it was Mr. Cao, the then commander-in-chief of the Northern Front, who personally killed the beast and ended that bloody battle. The man handed him a flask and asked for a drink to make it easier. He tried to explain that it was all inevitable. All ordinary people lie there like floating leaves, without roots and support. No one can guarantee that today all of them will fall asleep, and tomorrow they will wake up and see the sun again. Only if they were master tamers like Suji, then they really would have the opportunity to control their destinies in some way. Su frowned and eventually put his hand on his friend's shoulder, asking him not to talk about it, but rather to think about how they would eat the food prepared by Owan at home. They even agreed to eat more so that he would even get tired of cooking for them. The battle to save the plantation was the first deadly test for Su Heng. He proved himself as a real fighter, realizing that only constant efforts will help him survive in a chaotic world and protect others. This is an important lesson for all of us. Life is full of challenges, and we must be ready for them. It is necessary to constantly improve your skills and knowledge in order to cope with any obstacles. Every day should be filled with effort and striving for the best. This will help us not only survive, but also achieve success in any area of life.